are watching DBS TV and this is the news. The 11th edition of the Cameroon Business Forum has been launched this October 22 in the country's political capital in Yaoundé. Grouping business persons, investors, representatives of the Chamber of Commerce and the Association of Cameroonian Entrepreneurs, the forum is presided at by the Prime Minister Head of Government, Chief Dr. Joseph Dion Ngouté. This year's edition is observed to have taken a hard punch in relation to the general turnout, with just 50 participants compared to the 2019 edition in Douala, which recorded 500 participants. 35 of the participants are from the private sector and 15 from the public sector. This number was retained to take part in the high-level business meeting due to the COVID-19 pandemic and out of concern for compliance with barrier measures. The COVID-19 pandemic also inspires this year's Cameroon Business Forum theme, which is COVID-19, Proofing the Business Environment. This Thursday's meeting mainly involves an evaluation of the resolutions retained in the 2019 session, amongst which are boosting local production to reduce dependence on imports, as well as implementing financial reforms to revamp the economy. Participants also proposed ways to get Cameroon out of the COVID-19 and getting the economy back on track. In his marathon visit of ongoing projects in the littoral region, the Minister of Public Works, Emmanuel Nganou Djoumessi, had a stopover at the east entrance of the city of Douala on Thursday, October 22, where he visited construction works on the road leading to the Japoma Stadium. Exchanging with workers on the site, Minister Nganou Djoumessi got first-hand information on the evolution of the work and the difficulties they are encountering. Accompanied by the regional authorities, the minister and his delegation converged on the governor's office in Bonanjo for a working session with stakeholders, including the companies in charge of the project. After listening to different speakers from the governor to the city mayor, amongst others, who expressed the urgency of completing the project early enough given the upcoming events in the city, the minister gave them a deadline to complete the work, which is latest December 15, 2020. The working session rounded up the minister's stopover in Vuri Division, and his delegation continued to Mungo Division, from where they will move to the West region. Some factories in Bonaberi, economic capital of Cameroon, have received the visit of the Vuri Senior Divisional Officers team in an inspection tour, October 21. The team, led by the SDO's first assistant, Eto Fame, targeted some 3 factories which they confirmed to be operating in conformity with the law, except for a few hygiene and security lapses to be ameliorated.
There are a lot of illegal activities happening in this division, and we were out there to make sure we could really assess particularly 3 of them that we had programmed, and we realized that some, in general, some of them had something to do. They need to be conform with regards to the legal measures that are in place.
The team equally paid a surprise visit to some neighboring factories producing wine, whiskey and plastic bags, a visit that left the delegation shocked and disappointed as they discovered that they are functioning without government authorization. Added to their illicit state, hygiene conditions at the production site were also observed to be poor and unhealthy for consumers of their products, thus the closure of such factories.
We equally went to some industries without informing them, and we realized that there were quite some industries that are producing illegally, really unauthorized production of products which are really out of norms and which should not be consumed. And this is very disastrous because we realize that these products are being sold into the market. Meanwhile, they are coming from areas that are not really human. And this is something we should praise the SDO for this commission, because this is bringing out the activities of some illegal companies. And as the first assistant SDO said, this is just the beginning. And I think many other companies have to be warned that, like for these ones that we caught, they were sealed. They were sealed. We had to seal them. We had to close them.
Vocational training in the light of a renewed regulatory framework and resilience to the health crisis. This is the theme of the 2020-2021 professional academic year. A regional meeting for Littoral was held on Thursday, October 22 at the banquet hall of the Douala Professional Training Center of Excellence. The theme appears in the light of a prevailing health context as explained by the Regional Inspector for Professional Training in the Littoral region.
We know it's a pandemic that has come to, we don't know when it is going to be eradicated, and so we have to continue with our activities with this pandemic. So we are here today to work with the partners of vocational training to sensitize them on how they can go about with their normal activities while respecting the barrier measures and helping the students to continue to acquire the competencies they are looking for.
Chaired by the regional delegate for the Ministry of Vocational Training, the work session was centered on 3 presentations, namely the reform of the evaluation system for the official exams, the consumption of drugs in the training environment, and the assessment of activities of the past training year. After heading the Intermediate Lions of Cameroon as head coach for about 1 year, Yves Clément Aroga has been replaced by Martin Ntungu Mpile. This comes after an evaluation meeting carried out by the Minister of Sport and Physical Education together with FECAFOOT officials for a midterm assessment of preparations by the team in view of the upcoming African Nations Championships competition, CHAN. After realizing that their actual performance doesn't tie with the expectations of MINSEP and FECAFOOT, it was just normal that the team be handed over to a new tactician, Martin Mpile, who will be assisted by David Pogu. Meanwhile, Yves Clément Aroga has been placed under the services of FECAFOOT. It should be noted that Mr. Aroga replaced Rigobert Song Bahanak about 1 year ago. Eight civilians and 2 policemen have been killed in Conakry, Guinea's capital, following clashes between security forces and opposition leaders. This comes after a tense presidential election with preliminary results showing President Alpha Condé in the lead. Guinea's security minister in a statement announced the death toll on Wednesday while pointing to shootings and stabbings in Conakry and elsewhere in the country since Sunday's presidential vote. With tensions already running high, Guinea's main opposition leader, Cellou Dalein Diallo, on Monday declared victory in the election before the announcement of the official results, which are expected this week. Opposition supporters are deeply suspicious about the fairness of the poll, although the government insists that it was fair. Much of the tension in Guinea is centered on Condé's candidacy as he ran for a 3rd term in a controversial bid that had already sparked mass protests. Former Malian President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta, overthrown on August 18 by a military coup, has returned to Bamako on Wednesday, October 21, after a medical stay in the United Arab Emirates. Arrested by the military in mid-August, the 75-year-old president resigned few hours later. Detained by the junta for more than 2 weeks, he was allowed to leave Mali on September 5 to receive treatment abroad. Eyewitnesses didn't see the president in person, but said the street was full with his supporters. Even if he will no longer officially have a political role to play in the immediate future of the Malian political scene, some of his supporters are delighted that he is returning to his country to live there because Mali needs everybody, they say. Burundi's former president Pierre Buyoya has rejected a life sentence he received in absentia this week over the 1993 assassination of his successor, dismissing the case as a sham. We reject these judgments, which can in no way commit us. A statement from him signed by co-defendants says, he is the current High Representative of the African Union for Mali and the Sahel. The country's top court sentenced Buyoya to life imprisonment for an attack against the head of state over his role in the death of President Melchior Ndadaye. Melchior, Burundi's first democratically elected president and the first Hutu to come to power, was assassinated in October 1993 in a military coup that would lead the country into a civil war between the army, dominated by the Tutsi minority, and the Hutu rebel groups. It resulted in 300,000 deaths until 2006. In the United States of America, the Director of National Intelligence, John Ratcliffe, said on Wednesday that Russia and Iran have both tried to interfere with the 2020 presidential election. Ratcliffe made an announcement at a hastily arranged news conference on Wednesday that also included FBI Director Chris Wray. The announcement 2 weeks before the election showed the level of alarm amongst top U.S. officials that foreign actors were seeking to undermine Americans' confidence in the integrity of the vote and spread misinformation in an attempt to sway its outcome. Ratcliffe, during the news conference, said, "We have confirmed that some voter registration information has been obtained by Iran and separately by Russia. Most of that voter registration is public, but Ratcliffe said that government officials have already seen Iran sending spoofed emails designed to intimidate voters, incite social unrest and damage. He was referring to emails sent on Wednesday and designed to look like they came from pro-Trump Proud Boys group, according to government sources. The U.S. intelligence service had earlier on warned that Iran might interfere to hurt Trump and that Russia was trying to help him in the election. Former U.S. President Barack Obama has hit the campaign trail in support of his former Vice President Joe Biden, firing up voters and assuring them that Biden and his running mate Kamala Harris can mend a fractured country. While rebuking Trump's record at the drive-in rally on Philadelphia, Obama lauded the merits of democracy and citizenship as human values that the United States must again embrace. The former president directly attacked Trump's handling of the coronavirus, the issue that is dominating the 2020 campaign. He noted that Trump recently said there is not much he would change about the U.S. response to the pandemic that has killed over 220,000 people in the United States. With less than 2 weeks before Election Day, young voters are still skeptical and show their disinterest in voting, while others who are disillusioned have been given the go-ahead to vote with no fears, as Obama offered a defense of the nation's decency and personal validation that Biden and Kamala Harris can live up to it. He said, "What we do these next 13 days will matter for decades to come. Not voting gives away power." European members of parliament are debating measures to mitigate the social and economic impact of COVID-19. The pandemic is set to contract the Eurozone economy by 8.3%, says the International Monetary Fund. Specialists have warned that increased unemployment could lead many people into poverty. Paolo Gentiloni, they have deep consequences in all, while emphasizing that there was also need to be more fiscal flexible to help governments. The European Union has already agreed to a 750 billion euros recovery budget in July that allows for a combination of loans and grants to governments. Gentiloni said the overall goal is to transform their economy in this terrible and difficult crisis, explaining that the crisis could help to fuel a stronger economy. As such, there is a need to debate how to mitigate the impact of the tough consequences of the pandemic, with some asking for more investments and expansions to European integration. That brings us to the end of this edition of the news on DBS TV. Thank you for watching and stay with us for more programs. Goodbye.